As hundreds of thousands of published articles on glutathione, and it's made its way into the consciousness of the general public. Now, I'm in front of a room of thousands of people that have already heard about glutathione, and when you go out on the street, people will have heard about glutathione. When you go to nutritional conferences, people will always be talking about glutathione. Every doctor knows about glutathione. I used to say that one day glutathione would become as common a word as antioxidant or cholesterol or any of those words. It's happening now. It's happening now. You are at the front edge of a revolution. And why is it happening now? Because people have access to information. We're all connected, some of us hours per day, to the internet, which is a huge source of information. But what kind of information? What is the quality of the information that we get from the internet? Unfortunately, the majority of what appears to be educational on the internet is not really educational. If you look closely at the websites that you are listening to or the social media that you're listening to, almost everybody is trying to sell you something. They're giving you information from the perspective of sales. It could be a political message. It could be a marketing message. And this is done through, and even the word itself, I don't know if this translates well. You all listen to influencers. Does that word work? They're not ashamed to be called influencers. Are they teaching you anything? They're trying to influence you. And now that glutathione has become such a hot topic, I'm on the internet all the time and I see people talking about glutathione. And there are so many myths and mysteries and misunderstandings about glutathione that it makes me mad. Most of my talks that I speak to, I try to give a positive message and make you try to feel better and walk away with encouragement. Today, I don't think I'm going to do that. Today, I think you're going to walk away a little bit mad. You're going to be a little bit mad, but you're also going to be a lot proud. So we are going to look at glutathione from a completely scientific perspective. Because although science isn't perfect, and certainly the communication of science isn't perfect, it's as close as we can get to revealing what the truth is. So today we're going to talk about glutathione truth. And we're going to look very carefully at how to discern what is real and what is hype, what is fake. Let's start by looking at Immunocal. Many of you have seen many presentations on Immunocal, so I'm going to cover this very briefly. Just to lay a basis. Immunocal is an undenatured whey protein that's been clinically proven to raise glutathione levels. It's not glutathione, but it raises glutathione levels. And it appears in one of these two books. Now again, I'm talking from a North American perspective. In North America, we have these two books, the CPS in Canada and the PDR in the United States. And in those books are all of the medications that a doctor can prescribe to a patient. And one of these two books will sit on the desk of every single doctor and every single pharmacist in North America. This is one of the most common books in North America, but it sits on your doctor's desk and it sits on your pharmacist's desk. And in there appears Immunocal, something that is not a drug, something that is a natural product. But all of these products have undergone tremendous amount of research and requires clinical evidence. Now, when I say clinical evidence, what am I talking about? Studies that are carried out in human beings, what we call randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled studies. Now this sounds like a bunch of long words, but they describe a certain kind of study that every doctor needs to have seen before he or she can responsibly recommend the product to people. And this book, which I am constantly updating, contains almost 100 published studies on Immunocal. And probably around 25 or 35 human studies, many of them that reach this gold standard, the highest standard of research that says that this product works. How do you find this research? This is a website that is made available to the whole world. The whole world uses this. It's put out by the National Institutes of Health in the United States. And it's called PubMed. Who of you out here have used PubMed? So many of you. Why do people go to PubMed? I'm on PubMed every day. Any researcher, any scientist, any doctor that wants to get a hold of original studies will find them on PubMed. Now, most of you don't go on PubMed because it's very difficult to read. It's highly entrenched in medical and scientific words. Most of you read opinion articles or reviews coming from people who have read the research. You're not reading the real research. You're reading somebody's opinion on the research. If you want the real research, you go to PubMed. Researchers are on PubMed all the time. So let's go through an exercise. Let's go to PubMed. And on PubMed, You enter a keyword. In this case, the keyword is glutathione. And you see over 200,000 articles that come back from PubMed. It sounds like a big number. Let me put it into context. If you looked up vitamin C, you might find 70,000 articles. If you looked up vitamin E, you might find 40,000 articles. There are more articles written mentioning glutathione than vitamin C and vitamin E put together. Just to put that into perspective. But 200,000 articles, my God, I would still be reading them all. So PubMed allows you to put filters on there. So see, here you see the page that allows you to filter these articles. Let's apply a filter to it. So I applied randomized controlled trial. So this is going to be a more specific look at what glutathione does when you test it against a placebo or test it against another product. So this is really refining down the search. Let's add another filter to it. Human studies, because after all, it's human studies that count. Test tube studies are interesting, animal studies are interesting, but what really counts are human studies. When you take 95% of studies that are done in animals that look promising, 95% of animal studies never make it past human studies. Because translating it into humans, you find out things you never expected. So now look at the results.
It makes sense. Absolutely.
We went from over 200,000 all the way down to 2,000 articles. And it's these articles that count when we make a decision about what works in humans and what doesn't work. So let's get back on topic. The question we asked today is, how do I raise glutathione levels in the human body? And you would think that there'd be a simple answer. It's much more complex. Let's look at some of the most popular ways. The oral glutathione, liposomal glutathione, cysteine, cysteine, note the difference in spelling, N-acetylcysteine, and of course, other things that you're going to find on the market. Let's start with eating glutathione. This would be the instinctual choice to make. It sounds like it makes sense. You want to raise glutathione levels in your body. Let's eat glutathione. And there are hundreds of products out there that contain glutathione. Can you eat glutathione? Wow, this is the biggest myth out there. You cannot eat glutathione and expect it to raise glutathione levels in your body. When you eat glutathione, it becomes rapidly broken down in your digestive tract, and very little, if any, actually make it to your cells. But this is still the most common way that people use to eat, to try to raise glutathione levels. Is this a medically accepted way? No, because there are hundreds, maybe thousands of articles that tell you that eating glutathione is an inefficient way of raising glutathione levels. Glutathione is made inside of your cell. Your cells are little glutathione manufacturing plants. So glutathione is made by the cell, and the way that the cell makes glutathione is that it requires the building blocks or specific nutrients so that the cell can make its own glutathione. We call these specific nutrients precursors. This is the most important message I have for you today. If you want to go to sleep now, you can. But I have some more interesting stuff for you to see. So remember, there are hundreds of articles that show that oral glutathione is not effective, and it's so well established in the literature. And these are just some of the articles that you could look up that will clearly tell you that. But wait! Many people will pull out this study to show that oral glutathione does in fact raise body levels of glutathione. This was published in 2015. I guess that's over 10 years old. This is one study that people will always show you. Here's a study that shows that oral glutathione works. It was a 6-month study done in 54 adults. So let's just take a closer look at this study. And what I've done is I've translated it into Spanish for you to understand it. You see it? Yeah. It was published in the European Journal of Nutrition. Take note of that. And take note of the lead author, one John P. Ritchie Jr. And you'll see why this is important in a minute. John Ritchie Jr. Another thing to pay attention to, you see, reading a research article it's a skill. When I was teaching medical residents and students, I would have to teach them how to read an article. There are many things you need to look at. And one thing to pay attention to is that the study was funded by the largest manufacturer of glutathione supplements. So you have to state this in your study, where you get your funding from. Kayawahaku Bio Company in Japan. They make a very popular brand called Cetria glutathione. I'm not saying that this necessarily influences the outcome of the study, but it does remain suspect. And this study, out of the 200,000 articles on glutathione, is probably one of the only papers that show that oral glutathione works. And of course, it was roundly criticized by most of the medical and scientific community. But people still refer to it, unfortunately. Now, what about liposomal glutathione? This has made a huge splash in the glutathione world by coating glutathione in a fatty layer. It's supposed to protect it from being broken down in the digestive tract, and it's supposed to get effectively absorbed, and it's being treated as a breakthrough in glutathione delivery. And there are literally hundreds of companies that are marketing this. Not teaching about it, using influencers, using marketing tools, and this has become a huge success. Even among medical professionals, unfortunately. This is all great, but does it work? Where is the evidence? So there's another paper, another single paper, that everybody uses that's so-called proof. This is a 2018 article.
JP
Again, let
Ritchie
me
is there
translate
again.
it into Spanish for
The
easier
end.
understanding. Oral supplementation with liposomal glutathione elevates body stores of glutathione and markers of immune function. Sounds impressive. So, please note that it was published in the same article
Same journal.
as the paper on oral glutathione. Okay, the same paper that published an oral glutathione paper that everybody has a problem with. Now that's not bad in itself. Who's the main author?
Well, who hides his name at the end of the list?
The same John P. Ritchie Jr., the same guy that wrote the article that oral glutathione works. A little bit suspicious, no? And furthermore, the study was funded by yet another maker of glutathione, in this case the maker of a liposomal glutathione, a company called Research Nutritionals, and they make something called trifortified liposomal glutathione. But let's assume all that is acceptable. Let's take a closer look at the study. It was a 1-month pilot study. 1 month. 1 month. They used 2 separate doses of liposomal glutathione, and there were 6 subjects
Oh,
per group.
wow.
6 people per group. Not 16, not 60, not 600, 6 people. How do you even measure statistical relevance using 6 people? And curiously, what they found was the group taking the lower dose of glutathione, of liposomal glutathione, actually had a greater increase in glutathione levels.
Wow.
Does that make any sense? Could that just be because they're only looking at 6 people? Wouldn't you have liked to see a placebo group?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? No placebo group. Not double-blinded, not placebo-controlled, 6 subjects per group, and this is the one paper that people are waving around,
Wow.
showing that liposomal glutathione works.
Wow. It's not.
I'm sorry.
Don't be.
Okay, let's move on to intravenous glutathione. This is where glutathione is injected directly into your bloodstream. This is becoming increasingly popular and offered by many clinics. Well, intravenous glutathione does work, and it's undergone enough studies. Of course, there's problems with intravenous glutathione. Every injection carries the risk of an infection, and it requires traveling to a clinic and the inconveniences associated with that. But there's something else that is important for you to know about. There's something that pharmacists call a half-life. It's a measurement of how long the substance lasts in your body and how long it takes for half of it to be gone. So clearly, it's a reflection of how long the substance works. In this case, let me show you a study. Researchers injected a high dose of glutathione into human subjects, and they looked at what's called pharmacokinetics, which includes measuring the half-life of the glutathione.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh my God.
14 minutes.
It's all gone in an hour.
In this study,
A few hours. Yeah.
doctors used a smaller dose of glutathione. What did it show? Smaller dose. 1.6 minutes.
Crazy.
This is an intravenous product available for clinics for their use. This is what many injectors use. What's the reported half-life? A little bit better.
If it's true.
10 minutes. Let's look at a real example. I have a video for you. I hope this works. Let's see. Here we go. Here's a video of a patient being wheeled into the doctor's office. He has Parkinson's disease. He was wheelchair bound, and when he tried to walk, this was a typical walk that you see in Parkinson's. Now the man receives intravenous glutathione. Look at him. A few minutes later, he gets out of the chair and walks normally down the hall. Isn't this wonderful? Isn't this wonderful? The problem is,
He goes outside and falls over.
the problem is, as we saw the half-life of intravenous glutathione, by the time this guy gets back at home, he's back to the way he was previously.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand?
Yep.
So intravenous glutathione, that's okay if you want to have a quick detox or you drank too much the night before. It will work. It will work. What about glutathione patches? There's an increasing number of patches being marketed now. Do they work? Where is the science? Some of them don't even have glutathione in them. This patch here doesn't contain glutathione. It's supposed to work by improving organ function through light reflection.
Oh no.
What?
I've heard of this light.
It's from reflecting light and somehow raising glutathione levels in your body. There's not a single study that has confirmed that this works.
Wow.
No study that actually measures glutathione after the use of this patch.
I've heard of this company life.
This glutathione patch claims things like immune support, brain function boost, increased energy. Any proof? Not a single study. Here's one that claims gentle on the stomach. Well, that's hard to argue with. It's a patch. You can even find glutathione patches on AliExpress. It just shows up everywhere. So
Timu.
here's the bottom line of glutathione skin patches. The skin is a strong, tough barrier. It's really hard to get a substance to go through the skin and have any impact on blood levels. If any of these patches do actually have an effect, it will be on the skin immediately underneath the patch. Let's look at inhaled glutathione. This is glutathione that's given through an inhaler, through something called a nebulizer. Nebulizer, does that work in Spanish? This is a device that many of you have seen. Some of you may have even used. It's very commonly used in conditions like asthma or COPD. And here's an article published in the journal of Cystic Fibrosis. It was a placebo-controlled study and actually showed that inhaled glutathione works. Here's a study done in asthmatic patients. Again, some successful improvement. And there are other studies available as well. So yes, the answer is yes, inhaled glutathione delivered through a nebulizer works. It's not something that's done commonly, and not everybody is going to have the equipment or the opportunity to do this. Let's move on to glutathione mouthwash. Here's an example. It's described as a liquid supplement blending nanoglutathione, L-cysteine, curcumin, and vitamin C, and using a proprietary hydrostat or nanomicrofusion encapsulation. What? According to the manufacturer, this allows for rapid glutathione absorption. If this sounds more like marketing double talk, it is. Those words, I don't even know if they're scientific. They mean nothing to me. And there's absolutely no evidence that this product works.
Nutri-Swish.
No research, no human studies, nothing. And if you read scientific reviews on this, everybody agrees this is absolute nonsense. Nonsense. So glutathione mouthwashes, buyer beware. Something sounds scientific, it doesn't mean that it is, and I would always ask somebody who knows science to read it for you. Okay, so now we're going to get into a few basic things before we go on. When we look at the structure of the glutathione molecule, we see that it's something called a tripeptide. This just means that there's 3 amino acids: glutamate, cysteine, and glycine. We need to obtain these from our nutrition, from our diet. And looking closer at glutamate and glycine, these are actually quite common in the foods that you ate. I'm sure if you had breakfast this morning, if you had the time to have breakfast, you had a lot of glycine and glutamate, even if you ate at McDonald's. Cysteine, on the other hand, is a much rarer in our diet and more difficult to obtain. It's much more uncommon to have cysteine in your diet. And not only is it hard to get cysteine from your regular nutrition, it's considered the limiting factor for the manufacture of glutathione. So your ability to make glutathione is limited by your ability to get cysteine. And not only is cysteine rare, but it's only a particular kind of cysteine that is biologically available. So now let's look at another amino acid called cysteine. Again, note the difference in spelling and pronunciation. Cysteine is 2 cysteine molecules linked together by what we call a disulfide bond. It makes cysteine a source of cysteine.